now. So the way I like to conceptualize it, and it's really kind of a catch-all strategy, and basically the nuts and bolts of it are have multiple stakes out there so that you can like take the yield from a smaller stake and maybe add it to a larger stake, or that you have the ability to compound your stake yield over time. Because if you just put it all into one stake, you're not able to compound. You just get the daily payout and you have your points, and then you have to add more principal to it. But the yield you can't compound. And so essentially the idea is, so you have one maybe long-term stake, and then you take some other of your funds, your Hedron or your ICOSA, and you divide it into smaller stakes. Then you continue to compound those stakes until it gets to the next staker class phase, where then you have to wait longer for it to compound. Start new smaller stakes, continue to compound them until they get higher, and then you can compound a couple of these other stakes, and it yields when it comes out to make a large stake over time. So it's like you're using the fact that smaller stakes, since they have a shorter stake length period, you can compound your yield quicker. And then when you compound your yield quicker, you can then kind of build up this larger bag of coins over time. That's essentially the gist of the waterfall strategy. And like he uses like the analogy of like, you know, like in weddings when they have like the pyramid of champagne glasses, and then like you pour it. It's like as you fill up one cup, then you go and fill up another cup, and then you continue to let the overflow of each of your stakes, or the cups in this analogy, fill more stakes in the future.
So then why wouldn't you just keep on doing smaller stakes? Like
because you lose out on bonuses. So it's like if you want to have a balance between having flexibility of compounding your coins and or selling them, like you have that option with this strategy as well. But then you're able to work your way up to stakes that will eventually get a bonus, or have a stake that have a stake that has a bonus, and then have a smaller set of stakes that don't have a bonus but have the flexibility.
Okay. So are we talking about staking Hedron now or ICOSA? Because there's
both.
Hedron, you can only have one stake per address, right?
So you need new addresses for the strategy. For each stake that you do for the strategy, you need a new address.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But ICOSA can have multiple stakes per
It's the same.
Oh, it's the same.
It's the exact same.
But you can add to it or something. What was it again?
You can always add.
There's no time.
But on both? Is it on both? Like you can add. Okay, cool.
On the Hedron side, a whale gets locked when they stake, but on the ICOSA side, since it starts at 0, it's a non-denominator. You can unstake it
anytime. Yeah, okay.
And then just to clarify for anyone listening, and I think we already talked about this before, but when you're actually selling your HSIs to the contract, you can just go all in on one versus spending gas on a whole bunch of them. It all works the exact same way. The only difference is people on the other side have to spend that money to buy it on the open market. I haven't looked into this. What happens if a stake, once it goes to the open market, it just hangs out forever, right? Until someone grabs it?
Yeah, so in the liquidation auction, is that what you're talking about? Liquidation?
Yeah. Once it goes to the auction house.
So after the 90-day default period is over and the stake goes up for liquidation, somebody has to run the liquidation function themselves. So they have to pay a gas fee, and they make that initial bid. And so once that person runs that function, makes an initial bid, then the 24-hour time period starts and the more subsequent bidding can occur. But theoretically, if nobody made that first bid, then it would just sit there forever. But you are always incentivized. Everybody will forever be incentivized to make that first bid, because you are always going to be made whole if you wait till the end of that stake. Because the amount of Hedron that you can advance upon, which is that initial bid in the first place, is the amount of Hedron you can mint when you're at the end of the stake. So if you're just willing to make that first bid and say nobody else wants to bid on it afterwards, you will be made whole at the end of the stake by minting all the Hedron that you originally made, plus you have the hex stake at the end. So it's always profitable to make that very first bid in the liquidation auctions.
So when you make that first bid and you run it back into the time clock of you having to pay it off, is what you're saying. So as long as you keep paying your dues, it will
By making the bid, you pay off the advance. You are paying the advance when you make the first bid. And then all subsequent bids are just extra Hedron on top of the paid off debt that gets burned to win the stake.
Because it restarts every time on top of that. And then all the Hedron that gets removed, I think I remember that it stacks every time that gets burnt or sent back or something like that.
Yep. When you make your bid on the stake, that Hedron gets burned. When somebody else goes to make a stake, it will remint the previous bid's Hedron, put it back into that person's wallet, and then burn your bid. And it will just do that until the 24 hours is up, And then the person who made the last bid, their Hedron stays burnt, and the contract sends them the HSI.
Excellent.
So
I think